Welcome to Color Me Happy. My name's Brandy Hofer. I'm an artist, educator, mother, and muralist, and I am just so pumped up for you to dive into this Taylor tutorial. We're super obsessed with her new album cover. It's definitely suits our artistic style, and I'll give you a little sneak peek here. She is a mixed media piece on paper. It is a mix of oil pastels, Prismacolor pencil crayons, watercolors, acrylics, and Posca pens. So a whole giant mix of fun, which we love to do, and we want to get you started in this too. We have a whole educational sector in Color Me Happy. Of course, you get some of it here on YouTube along with our Color Me Happy podcast, which is so fun. And it's at brandyhofer.ca where you can check out our full range of classes. Like say you wanted to DIY a mural in your home, or if you wanted to start getting in the business of murals in like exterior murals or murals in businesses, or if you want to learn how to draw a portrait and you don't know how to draw or don't know where to start, and we can get you started. So I am so pumped up that we will get you diving into your creativity, following your passions, because that is what it's all about. Our Color Me Happy community is a free community on Facebook, so be sure to check that out and join. It's full of wonderful creatives who lift one another up. It's a very positive place to be. So check this out. Dive in. Let us know if you have questions. We're happy to chat anytime. You can follow us at Brandy Hofer Studios on Instagram. That's kind of the best place to message us, because that's where I sit and that's where I answer questions and chat with a whole range of people from all over the world. And this whole technique we teach in our portrait class, which is our most popular viral class. Everyone loves it. It's so fun. And when people create from the class, they share it in the community. So yeah, let's do this. Let's go. Hello, welcome. Okay, so here we start off by using a Stonehenge. It's called Stonehenge Hot Press. We use the hot press paper because it's not bumpy. So I don't want you to go into this starting your project off on the wrong foot, because when you use like a watercolor paper, it's very textured and it's really complicated and very frustrating to put a mixed media portrait on top of that bumpy watercolor, because you'll be using pencil crayons and other mediums, etc., which the bumps don't really allow for like a smoothness of that. So Stonehenge hot press paper. That's really important because this is a paper that's used largely in printmaking, so it has the ability to expand and stretch out and then shrink back down. This is our tape. We're taping it to an MDF drawing board. Drawing boards are really handy, and you can get MDF from any hardware store and just kind of screw a strap on top so you can carry it around with you. We're using Can-Tech masking tape, which is a really great masking tape that we keep in the studio because it tends not to lift like other masking tapes and painter's tapes do. If you don't want it to rip your paper later when you take it off, hit it with a hairdryer. That's our secret there. So what we do is we do a good mix of watercolors. Any type of watercolor is good. You don't have to get fancy. It can be artist quality. It can be just... Honestly, we've done it with dollar store quality. The natural colors of the artist quality watercolors that I'm showing here are actually really beautiful because they have those earthy components and the natural expensive pigments in them. So I, as a professional artist, use those most often. And then after I do the staining with the watercolor, and I like to stay really expressive, spray it, move it around, really have fun, because that looseness and that expressive quality will play into the rest of your drawing. So you use quite a bit of water and media, and here I start to mix in a little bit of acrylics over top. You don't want to get heavy with the acrylics because they kind of act like a glue and a resist, and you'll have trouble putting on extra mediums over top of acrylic if it gets too thick. A lot of times in what we teach in our portrait class is we pull, because we do a lot with our children and they kind of dump acrylic on top. We pull that extra paint off with a squeegee. if there is any, and it leaves a really nice, beautiful stain. So check out our portrait class if you're more into that paint pulling technique. For this one, I just wanted that really natural stain, almost like tea stain, warm colors, especially because we're working off of, as you know, because you're here, the Taylor Swift black and white photo. So we wanted it to be warm from the get-go, because basically we have to make up skin tone because we don't get to see the color of the skin tone in the photograph. So I like to start off on a warm note. Also keep in mind when you do this to choose a palette that is forgiving to your portrait. In other words, if you get really dark with purples and blues, it's going to be you're going to have a hard time building up your portrait and your mediums on top of those dark colors. So I like to stick to the earth tones. You can use some neons, which are really fun. I obviously, in my artwork, if you check me out at Brandy Hofer Studios on Instagram, love vibrant colors, and brandyhofer.ca, all my artwork. I'm super obsessed with color. Here is that the next day. Super gorgeous, dried really flat. Make sure you're securing that tape on really nicely so it doesn't bubble up. I left it overnight. You can leave it for like 12 hours. You can see how the paper did expand. It got really wobbly and then it shrunk back down. And that's kind of what paper stretching is. And so here we are. We did the sketch using our method that we teach in our portrait class. It's a way to get a perfect sketch and everything mapped out without having to worry about getting, the eye or the nose in the wrong spot, or does this look like this? Is this proportionate to that? Thousands of people have taken our class. They love this technique. It's a really empowering way to learn to draw, even if you don't know how. And with this technique, even if you do know how to draw, it will be even better. So it's a really fun way to learn. We never actually use graphite ever in this process. I know a lot of people do a graphite transfer. We do an oil transfer using a certain method to get a really beautiful sketch, and it's a great way that you can use shading, line sensitivity, mark making, and get a really delicate sketch as opposed to other transfers that you see with like graphite or pastels or anything like that. So it's a really refined version that we have developed over the past 2 decades, and it's really popular. It also works well and it dries well with this mixed media process, and the drawings are so good, in fact, that we leave it at this drawing stage in many cases, and it's a beautiful, beautiful sketch on paper, which sometimes they just are, and you just don't take it any further. Here's more into why we don't use graphite. The reason why we don't use a graphite transfer and why we develop this technique using oil is because graphite actually lifts and tends to resist other mediums. So when you're going on your first layer of mediums, say for example with Prismacolor pencil crayons, we recommend those because they're the best pencil crayon. They have highly pigmented pencil crayons and they don't wax over as easily as the others. And if they do wax over, you can just apply a workable fixative, and it's a spray-on, and it will help that waxing anyway. And they've gotten better over the years for waxing, I've noticed as a professional artist and using them on a regular basis. So we really avoid graphite at all costs. And I teach an art academy with 62 students a year, in person, and then thousands of people online, and people just reach for graphite. I don't know what it is about it, but please do not use graphite at any point during this technique because it will bleed into your other mediums. It will ruin your drawing. It smudges. It's just like a pain. This technique with oil is great because it doesn't smudge. And what I do to get the drawing even more, and what you can see here, even more gorgeous, is I come in with a black Prismacolor pencil crayon, because you know where everything is. You're not going to make mistakes, and you're confident in your drawing. And that's what this technique is all about. It's a really empowering way to learn to draw. It's not cheating. It is just taking out the frustrating part of that drawing process. So you can actually go in and finish your drawing like we have here with just pencil crayons, with just Prismacolor pencil crayons. This is one of our students from portrait class, Kristen Hickman. This is her daughter Lola, Lola, there we go. It's gorgeous. So you can finish off with pencil crayons. However, I'm a professional artist and I've done probably thousands of these portraits over the past 2 decades. And so I wanted to take it a step further because I'm super obsessed with this tailor drawing and I'm very inspired by the photography that I wanted to create an extra layer. And I kind of got stuck, to be honest. So I didn't want to just throw on an extra layer or whatever without testing it out first. So what I did was I went to my iPad and I used Procreate and I threw another layer of pattern work with some florals and some vines and tested out how I liked it on the drawing first. This is a great way if you're ever stuck anywhere in your artwork, like if you want to do a background a different color or whatever, you can just go in with Procreate and totally throw a pattern over top. I really loved just this kind of mix of florals and vines over top of the drawing, so I wanted to take it a step further. You don't have to. You can stay with that technique of having a beautiful drawing, finishing it with pencil crayons, maybe adding some oil pastels, Posca pens, whatever your heart desires, soft pastels. Like, the sky is the limit and you can stick to that, because if you're just starting out, that's going to make more sense in your head. Even when I start adding pattern work as a professional artist here, I'm kind of going with my gut, trying new things, learning. Like, I always want to be pushing my brain and continuing to learn. That's why I do this. I want to be challenged each time. Like I said, I have done this so many times over the years. One year I did 132. I was a little burnt out, to be honest. So I like to challenge myself continually as a creative. So I started coming in and doing, you can see I'm like hesitating in the video as well. I'm coming in slowly, adding that pattern work and just getting the hang of things and looking at my iPad, kind of following what I did there, but also following just my intuition on where I want to place things and figure it out in this drawing process. I really enjoyed it, and there was a lot of like back and forthing between things I liked and things I didn't like. So it was like adding things, taking away things, learning along the way. And I think that's why we do this. That's what creativity is all about, why it's so therapeutic, why it's good for us. It's like, it's creating new pathways. It's testing your thinking centers, so your neurons, which they have found are in your head, your heart, and your gut. So you're thinking with all those parts of your body, and you're really pushing how intuitive you are, which is really important. Your intuition is one of the biggest tools you have in your life, especially when you're moving forward, making big decisions, navigating your way through your everyday. I think intuition is one of your most powerful tools, and drawing is a way to, and making art is a way to really feel uplifted. It's a positive way of stretching those centers, where, you know, you might feel frustrated, but what's the big deal, right? You've got nothing to lose. You can go back, draw over it, paint over it, rip it up and turn it into something new. You've absolutely got nothing to lose. And it's a really exciting way that I think everyone should learn to explore within themselves. And I believe everyone has the ability to do so and to keep experimenting and keep creating. And if it didn't work out the first time, you can try it again, because who's there judging you? Just you, right? And in this case, I'm challenging myself once more. It was a lot of pressure because I did announce online what I was doing, and I was like, gosh, I hope this turns out. If not, I guess I'll just say I screwed up and I'll start again with it. So here we go, kind of fast forwarding through that process. I just wanted to talk about trusting your intuition for a bit. While we were just sitting there, I didn't draw much, but here is fast forwarded that pattern work. I like this pattern work because I didn't want to go fully into realism. And I'll tell you why. I really enjoy the process of figuring out what I can do with my artistic medium. So not making a leaf necessarily look exactly like a leaf, but how beautiful could a leaf be through simplified mark making, line making, enjoying the mediums, coming back to that childlike play, because I've done realism. I know I can do it, and it's not like that same adventure anymore. So what about if I explore the mediums in a certain way? What does this pattern work feel? And again, I went with trusting my gut and intuition. How would this look wrapping around her form? How would this complement the photograph? What colors should I use and where should I use them? What would push out further? You're always thinking about your positive and negative space. So I'm thinking about the space around Taylor, and I'm thinking about this space on her form. What can I do next? What can I explore? Kind of stepping back and always looking at it, taking my iPad, taking my phone, looking at video, taking pictures, getting that sense of, where could I take her next? What colors could I use? What mediums could I explore? And I really enjoyed adding the color elements and such and different colored elements, because some come forward, some move back. So they, when those bright bold colors kind of come up front, and then those more neutral colors kind of fall to the back, which is a really big tool when you think about landscapes. And that's true, like a portrait or a form is just like a landscape. Like you're working with neutrals and you're having them fall back, and you're working with those brighter tones and you're having them come forward. When we talk about line sensitivity, you have those bold, dark, really confident lines coming forward. They're going to push forward on your page, and then the lighter quality lines are going to fall back. Say like when you're drawing a hand and one finger's in front of the other, or one knuckle is higher than the other side, like you're going to want to draw that higher, closer knuckle to the eye, making it look like it's coming forward, and then you're going to like drift off on the line. So that's what I'm talking about with line sensitivity. And hair looks great when you're not just pressing really hard on your tip of your medium and you're getting this one solid line. Hair looks great if you get a whole bunch of different line quality and pressure with what you're putting on your medium. Here I'm diving into the portrait. For portraits, I really like to, first of all, get the drawing correct. So here I am coming in with some darker mediums with a mix of Prismacolor pencil crayons and Sennelier oil pastels. And then I use a smudging stick, which is one of my greatest tools. As you can see, I'm taking that oil pastel, using my smudging stick, and I am getting that skin tone. I really enjoy pastels because they're smoother and creamier. I enjoy the Sennelier pastels because they are like lipsticks, so I can use them in this great way with my smudge stick in the smaller areas of the portrait. And so I'm coming here, creating those shadows, creating those dark parts and the skin tone, because when we're working with a portrait, we're working dark to light. So we're building up. It actually took me a few days to, build up the skin tones because I let the oil dry a day and then I come back over top. A really cool trick, and what I like to do, is come in with Prismacolor pencil crayons, the bright ones, the neon pink and the neon oranges in the portrait, and pop up those portrait areas because it just highlights those areas a little bit more. And you know me, I like to have really vibrant portraits. This one's particularly vibrant, and not going with those like, this is exactly what the picture looks like. It is using this, this, and this, and I'm gonna copy it exactly. What if a highlight was bright orange or yellow instead of just white? What if you highlighted with those neons instead, and what would happen, and what areas would come forward and what areas would fall back? So I really worked with a mix of those two mediums, Prismacolor pencil crayons and Sennelier pastels, to play with that concept in those areas, building on top of And the great thing is that if you lose parts of your drawing, you can always come back in with your black pencil crayon and sketch in those areas again over top. You're never going to lose them. You can always get them back and building on your drawing in that way. Okay, so remember, and I should have mentioned at the beginning of all of this, is that you're capturing your process the whole way through. Unless that's not something you like to do, it's something I like to do as a creative, as I am on YouTube, I have a podcast, Instagram, TikTok, all of that thing, those things. So I capture with my camera and I capture with my phone, mostly my phone, with a tripod set up as I go, because I can recycle this media probably 35 times in different ways. That's the thing. You don't have to create. You can just recreate content, and I actually really enjoy creating content. I think it's another way of creating, and it's another way of connecting with really fun creatives from all over the globe who I get to meet. I got to meet some friends in New York, who are from Brazil. I have gone to Europe and met friends there, and I just went on another big trip with some DIYers who I know from social media, and we did some murals in Bella Brave's room and home for her and her little brother Waylon. It's just a really cool way to meet people and show what you can do with your skills, and it's just like, it's limitless. So I like to capture what I do. Okay, so right here I am starting into the floral layers, and like I said, I was going for more of like like having fun with mark making, playing with my mediums, see how they work, what kind of thicknesses can I get, what kind of textures. And I just really love how this flower turned out, and I'm so sad that you'll see what I do next. I made a decision, and I sat on it for 2 days actually. I love that flower. I thought it was gorgeous, and I loved how those lilies looked and how they kind of fell over and how they were so rich and creamy. So then I did leave it. I did leave it for a while, and I worked into her form and her hands. So the cool thing about this portrait is that, or having a black and white portrait, and what I've done many times is I kind of like to play with tonal value. So I decided to do the arms in kind of like more of a blue tone. So playing with skin tone in that way and making that decision of what would look cool in the composition. You can do whatever you want. You can make it look the same as others. Sometimes I even, like, the underpainting is so gorgeous that I just let the underpainting fall away or just be the drawing. So I make the drawing really strong and just add shadows and like subtle highlights using my pencil crayons. Or what I'm doing here is adding with all shades of my Prismacolor pencil crayons, the blues. I have a whole bunch over the years. Like I said, I've been doing this for 20 years, and oh, that's crazy. I don't feel like I've done it that long. I do feel like I'm confident in the way I create, and I'm so glad that part of my life of being frustrated, like showing up to a mural or a project, I'm really confident now, and I'm like, the easiest part is painting, all the other stuff is the hard part. So that's something that was from a time in my life where I showed up every night and I painted and I learned, and I was really driven to do a lot of self-learning. So I learned about mediums, I learned about techniques, I developed this technique, of course, which in our portrait class, like thousands of people love it. Okay, here I go. I was like, oh, and it's just like, you know, even though I'm confident, even though I've been doing it a long time, you're like, should I? It would have looked fine both ways. But I wanted to pay homage to this photograph because what her arms are doing were just so gorgeous. The way she kind of has them wrapped around her neck and face, and so I just wanted to try it. I don't really care if you think it looked better the other way. I think it would have looked great either way, and I just wanted to push it and play. And so I wanted to pay homage to the way her form was moving in the photograph, instead of she was just covered up by a whole bunch of florals. As you can see, I've gone in with a lot of the pastels now, and I have had a really good time using, what was the other brand of pastels? Ask me in the notes, because I'll probably forget to put it in the notes. The art store recommended at the Paint Spot in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. They recommended I try something beyond Finalizing, which I liked. They're in that box there. They're in that kit. Maybe you can see it from here. There we go. The Neo Pastel. Thank you. See? It all worked out. The Neo Pastels, I like them because they are super vibrant, which I don't think Finalizing's come in those kind of neon-y shades. It wasn't as lipsticky, but it was very highly pigmented, and I really enjoyed Mark making those florals. My friend, who is I like Taylor Swift, but she's like Swiftie hardcore. So she suggested all the flowers I use from the songs, so that makes sense. So I added like daisies and roses and lilies and carnations. I forget what else. Yeah, so like Taylor hides in all her, like, there's secret meaning and a lot of things which people enjoy, obviously, and probably you because you're here. She's so cool in that way, and it makes it fun, right? It makes it so fun for her major big fans, and I had so much fun creating this. I can't even tell you. Like, it was made out of pure joy and love for people to like be engaged with it and have fun. And I hope that was my son. Anyways, I am coming in here, so it's really important that if you start adding any other mediums like acrylics again, is that you have your paper still securely taped to your board, to a hard surface. I came in here again, and like you saw, I tested out on my iPad first the maroon. I was like, should I? She looks so good already. Not sure, on the fence, don't know. And then I stopped for the night, and I grabbed my iPad quickly and took a quick photograph, and I was like, I'm gonna try maroon. So I did maroon and then threw some floral patterns on top again on the iPad, and I was like, okay, more is more is more. This looks better. I love it. I'm super pumped about it. Let's do it. Whatever. And it's hard at this stage of the game to be like, whatever, because, you know, I put a lot of hours into it already, lots of layers, as you know, lots of mediums, expensive art mediums, which I never really think about. I just have them, and it's just something that I love to invest in. When you invest in the good mediums, you're investing in yourself as a creative, and never, like, you just make more money and you make more art and you just enjoy life, and that's what you do. Because the more you worry about it, it's just like a vicious negative spiral. But if you're just like, I'll make more and I'll focus on getting it and we'll figure out a way. I trust myself to figure every situation out. You're adaptable, you're resourceful, and that's what creativity teaches you. Joy in being a resourceful person who can solve anything. And it's really cool because it's like a fun way to learn that. Like I said earlier, by the way, I have kids, you can hear them. And if you tell them not to come into a space, that's like exactly what everyone wants to do. Anytime is come right into your space, especially when you're creating things, because I have all the fun stuff, right? I have the paints, I have the space, I have the messy studio floor, the walls, and they just come in and get to do what they want and explore. So that's a really cool thing about being a creative mother and a creative person, is that I get to connect with not only my own children, but connecting with my own children led to me working in our local school system and founding an art academy, which has been one of the most, and I never thought I'd find myself there as a professional artist. I had that limiting belief that if as a professional artist I could only be this one thing in order to be successful. Well, let me tell you, I'm like 8 things now. I have 8 streams of income. I'm an author, I'm an educator, I'm a mother, a muralist, and I have so much fun. Not any day is the same, and I really love that. So I'm glad that I found myself in that position as a creative. I'm not ashamed of it, and my definition of success is what I find successful, what I feel like I've achieved, and if I feel good about my everyday, and if I'm happy. Obviously we're not happy every day, but if I can see extraordinary things and small steps toward the right direction and growing as a person, as a creative, that's what I define success as. And it's not comparatively to some other person in the world of what they're doing and what their definition of success is. So I love doing this. I love sharing this with you. I love working with youth. I love empowering people and sharing my techniques and creating, because in my portrait class, making these tutorials, I have connected with so many people, and I love seeing them create. It is the most beautiful journey, and I used to keep it all to myself, let me tell you, and I would rather share it with everyone. It is way more fun. The paint I used in this one was So Flat by Golden. I really love their new paints. They're super fun. Oh, there's me showing you how I came up with that pattern and design. I forgot to hit record on when I drew out the pattern work, so I'm trying to go back and tell you here what I used. I used a lot of those neo pastels over top of the acrylic. I let the acrylic dry first for a couple of hours before I came in with those pastels. I did a lot of really simple pattern work. I just kind of went with Gauguin kind of look, very I love Gauguin and his forms and the colors he uses, but this is more like a childlike sketch around to really play off of and in contrast to those more delicate sections of the photographic meaning and the quality of the skin and stuff like that. So I really like that fun kind of extra pattern work. So I did that pattern work mostly using those neo pastels, which I really enjoyed on top of the So Flat Golden acrylics. And I love to leave that edge there. So if you're worried about your tape tearing your paper, you can just hit it with a hot hair dryer first, and it will come right off nicely. I wasn't worried. I've done it lots, and again, you can carry your piece like that, and it leaves a good edge for framing if you're planning on framing. After finished this, I spray it with a workable fixative. I like it a little bit better than final fixatives, because if I ever want to go back or change something and or do anything, and it's just not as heavy as the final fixatives, and I don't like gloss or anything. And I know there's pastels and people have this thing, but because I used Prismacolor pencil crayons, I don't want them to get waxy at any point or anything. So I think this turned out really great, and like I said, I just misted it quickly. Then I take her down to my art studio, and I take lots of pictures, I take lots of videos of me holding the piece, and I take I just document the whole thing really. And to really document, and always when you create something, especially if you're a professional artist and you're if you're creating your portfolio, which now online, like Instagram's your online portfolio, right? So you want documentation of anything, just in case you want to blow it up, print it off, make it a mural, whatever. So I actually do automations on on Photoshop with my scan. So I scan everything on my scanner, then I stitch it together. You can look that up, Google it, how to stitch together photographs on Photoshop. It's fairly simple, and I always go in and I make sure my image is really clean. I make sure there's no eraser pieces or whatever, or little dots, and I get them out. And when you scan your images, you want them at 300 dpi or higher. I have mine set at 400 just in case I want to blow it up one day. But this is the best way to make prints, is if you can also hire someone to scan your art. I can't go into it too much now, obviously, but I just want to let you know that I document each of my pieces in this way, and it is the best way beyond photography, because you're getting a really sharp image in order to recreate this in any way that could come up in the future, and it makes gorgeous prints. Thanks for being here. Let me know if you have any questions anytime, and we hope you enjoyed this so much. We hope you love that tutorial just as much as we loved making it for you. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content just like this, and check all our education and classes out at brandyhofer.ca. Join our free community, Color Me Happy, on Facebook to dive into more creative projects and share what you're working on, because we have a community that wants to support you and your creativity and your passions in life for seeing your everyday ordinary as extraordinary. Please feel free to reach out anytime on Instagram at Brandy Hofer Studios. I am happy to chat. Yay, bye! Please know that you can always reach out at Brandy Hofer Studios on Instagram anytime, and be sure to check us out on YouTube at Brandy Hofer Studios Color Me Happy, where we are now pouring a lot of free tips and a lot of fun information, and every one of our podcasts on there. We also have our book, Color Me Happy, See Your Everyday Ordinary as Extraordinary, and our Color Me Happy community on Facebook, which is free to join, where we uplift members and we do member features, as well as features our members on our Color Me Happy podcast. We can't wait to hear from you. Please share everything you're working on, and feel free to post in our Color Me Happy community any of your process shots or any questions you have for the group. We're happy to answer them in there as well. And we thank you so much for your time today. We sure do appreciate it. And have the most beautiful day. Thank you so much for being here.